YouTube, what is going on? Crowder here, and for those who do not know me, I'm the head coach of the professional franchise for Call of Duty Vegas FaZe, and I'm also an ex-professional player. I was a world champion back in the day, a very long time ago, but today with Black Ops 7 coming out, I wanted to give you guys a how to aim like the pro players in Black Ops 7, kind of help you guys get a little bit better at the game, enjoy the experience, and overall just have some more fun with Call of Duty. Let's get into it. All right, so moving on to tip number 1. This is probably gonna be one of the most important tips, especially because in Black Ops 7, they actually nerfed what they call aim assist and rotational aim assist and a bunch of other things that kind of come along with it. So I'm going to explain some of that to you. And also I'm going to give you a demonstration of kind of just how it works in general. And then we'll move on to some other tips. And then of course the really important stuff with the settings and, you know, all the crazy things that go in the COD menus nowadays. That's going to help a lot. But for this first one, I'm going to explain what rotational aim assist is, how pros use it, and what it looks like. So as you can see here on the screen, we have this player going back and forth over and over again. And I'm holding my controller. I use a PS5 controller, Battle Beaver, nothing too crazy. And I am not touching anything on my sticks, and as you see, every time he runs by the red dot on my screen, there is no movement or aim assist or anything activated while you are playing. Now, the biggest thing I see a lot of new players in Call of Duty do is they don't use what we call rotational aim assist. So in order to get the aim assist actually activated, especially in Call of Duty, you want to use your left stick, because your left stick is going to activate what we call that rotational aim assist. So if I start going back and forth with my left stick, just like this, every time he goes by me, you're going to see that it actually kind of catches him and takes it with him right there. And I'm not using my right stick. So you can see I'm not doing any aiming. The controller and the aim assist is doing it for you. And that is going to be a huge help when you were playing Call of Duty, especially with the wall bouncing and the sliding in Black Ops 7. Now, this also does work when it comes to your right stick as well, but the right stick is just a little bit more different when it comes to kind of just controlling recoil and tracking. You kind of want to use it in a different way. But if I am also using my right stick, it will slow down on him too. It's just going to be a little bit harder to track someone when you're doing all this movement with your right stick instead of if I was just kind of going back and forth. Now, to put this in perspective for you, a lot of the times when you're holding a head glitch in Call of Duty, if you were just kind of holding this and watching this driveway, if I'm not moving my left stick at all and anyone kind of runs through the red dot just like Tucker is right there. So when you're holding these head glitches, instead of just being still and then someone kind of goes by and then your aim looks like that, which a lot of you, it might look like that. That's not a good thing, but it's very easily fixed. It will actually look a lot smoother if you're kind of just holding the head glitch and going left and right and just keeping these small movements, just so you actually have that aim assist, you have that cover, and your aim is just going to be a lot smoother because of that. And for the last thing I will say on this topic, I know I did say they did nerf aim assist in general. Basically, the rotational aim assist is just not as strong as it was last year. Not to a crazy degree, but it is definitely weaker. If you want to watch an in-depth video about that, I would recommend watching Exclusive Aces video. He did a whole entire aim assist just breakdown of comparing it to last year and then this year. And there is still some rotational aim assist, even though Call of Duty said they were kind of eliminating that up close. That is not true. And you do still kind of get it from far, but just in different ways. But if you want an in-depth breakdown, definitely just go watch that video. But we're going to move on to tip number 2 right now. Now, tip number 2 is going to be how to control the recoil of your weapons and also use your right stick more effectively. All of these tips that I'm giving you, again, a lot of them are just tips that were mastered by the pro players. And kind of anything you do, if you just master the basics and you get them down really, really well, your aim or whatever you're trying to accomplish is going to be really good, obviously, in the future. So tip number 1 is making sure you're always moving. Use that left stick and make sure you have the right settings, which we'll get to at the end of the video. Tip number 2 is going to be how to control the recoil and use your right stick a little bit more effectively. And it is going to look something like this. So if you have your settings on and you have the bullet impacts on, which is going to be in graphics, under quality, it's going to say bullet impacts. You want to have that on, and all you have to do is shoot at a wall and not control the recoil to see exactly what you're working with the weapon that you are using. So for this one, we're using the M15. I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to see the recoil. It goes up after the few bullets, and then it starts going to the left. So if you wanted to control that recoil, you want to pull straight down and then slightly to the right to combat that upper left recoil when it's going vertically. So now for this next round of bullets that I'm going to shoot at the wall, instead of just letting it go up and to the left, I'm actually going to control it by pulling down and then slightly to the right. And it's going to look something like this. And a little to the right. And you can see how much tighter the bullet spread is just by knowing the recoil pattern. And now if you know the recoil pattern of the weapon, you know what to expect when you're shooting your weapon at an enemy player. You will have a much better understanding of what you need to do while you're using your left stick aim to kind of get that aim assist and then also control and track with your right stick. So this is just a little bit of practice. It's a very simple thing. It's very basic, but it will go a long way if you know how to control the recoil on your weapon. Now that we know how to use our left stick and get rotational aim assist, we understand how to use the right stick a little bit more with recoil control. Now we're going to put them both together, and that's what I kind of call left stick aiming, but just in general, kind of how to aim and use both of those tips in one. 1, and it is going to look something like this. So if I'm on this head glitch and you get your position, that's step number 1. Step number 2, what I just taught you. Yes, if you guys answered, it's going to be using your left stick to get the rotational aim assist while you're behind cover. You were correct. So now you're going to be standing here. You're going to be aiming at whatever you're aiming, just like this. You can kind of go wide right, wide left, as long as you're behind cover. Sometimes if you want to kind of try and catch people off guard, or they slide here and go to the right, you can like wide strafe and follow them. As long as you're moving, you were in a good spot. So make sure you're moving behind cover. And then if they were to come to this head glitch or anything of the sort, or if they were going to slide out to the right, just like we saw earlier to show exactly what it would look like if there was someone on this head glitch, and it would look like this. And you can see the red dot on my screen right there was way more accurate on the top of that head glitch. And now if they were to kind of come out there and do a slide to the right, what I was just talking about, left stick aiming and tracking, you could actually use your left stick to wide strafe left. And that's going to get the rotational aim assist to follow the player to the right. And then, of course, you just want to use your right stick very lightly while controlling recoil to track them. You don't want to be super jerky. You don't want to be super crazy with the stick. You just want to be very light on it. Use your left stick heavily and your right stick lightly to track players while they are sliding around and jumping around. It's going to look something like this. You'll be shooting, and then you just kind of go like this, and you just do it very lightly. You kind of just track these players left and right to make sure that you're able to just get that tracking, that basic recoil control down, and that left stick moving down to help you. Now, I'm going to show you exactly how I like to practice this when I was a pro player back in the day, outside of just playing the game, and that will be more towards the end of the video. But for now, we're going to move on to the next tip to keep helping you guys out. All right, now for the next tip, this is going to be one of the most important tips, because if you can do everything I just showed you, but you can't do this, you're going to still stink at Call of Duty, and it's going to be the most basic one out of them all, and it is just called centering or reticle placement. And all that means is that red dot and those crosshairs on your screen, they need to be predictive and make sure that you are conscious of where they are while you're running and sliding around and what moves and places that you're about to see, so you can kind of set yourself up for greatness with the other tips that I just showed you. So what I mean by that is centering is where you center your reticle, or where you place your reticle on your screen. So if I was running through these buildings, a lot of new Call of Duty players, especially those who just got Black Ops 7 playing for the first time, they kind of run without a purpose or without any kind of prediction of where their opponent's going to be or where they're actually looking on the map. So what I mean by that is if I was just running down looking here while I'm entering the kitchen building, there could be so many different angles someone could be. So if I run here and my aimer is looking at this ground, they can be in this left corner, they could be holding this angle right here, they can be on this right corner, or they can be over here. So if I'm looking at the ground and I enter, there are so many different places that these guys can be. And in order for me to actually react, snap, and get the kill, I would have to look up, then look to the left or look to the right, whatever I'm looking for. So say he was on the left, I would have to look up, then snap to the left. That's 2 separate movements. Then aim in, shoot, and react. And by that time in Call of Duty, it is a game of milliseconds. You will probably be dead unless the other person has not watched my aim video and they can't aim themselves and they get turned on. So what I mean by centering is, A, you don't really ever want to be looking at the floor, because if you are looking at the floor, you're never going to be in a gun up ready position to get caught off guard and have that sprint to fire speed and anything else kind of save you. So you want to have your reticle centered of where they're going to be at all times. So if you think someone was going to turn this corner, you don't run at this corner like this. You wouldn't run at this corner like this, and you definitely wouldn't, run at this corner like, looking this way. You would want to make sure that as you're approaching, you would be centered here. So if they were to turn this corner and they were to strafe out and look, that your reticle would be around like the chest height or the lower chest. So when your first couple bullets shoot, they shoot up, they recoil. It's going to be an upper chest to a headshot, and you're going to get a faster time to kill while being accurate. So it would look something like this. If I was approaching kitchen, instead of kind of, just sliding around, looking down like this and have to snap and react, it would just be very simple, where I would just change it up and I'd be looking here, and then sometimes I'd even be sliding and aiming in and making sure I'm predicting where these people are going to be, so I can jump, slide, and aim in. And you can see that my red dot wouldn't have to do too much shifting there if he was actually turning that corner, instead of just kind of jumping and sliding and looking around just like this. So try to work on your centering, be conscious about it, and just kind of predict where people are going to be. Another example is if you're kind of coming through these pillars, you can kind of just slide out and like look where people are going to be. But if you think he's going to be up there or on that head glitch, you would want to slide out looking up. So instead of sliding out, kind of just looking at nothing, you'd want to slide out and be ready by looking up like that. And you can kind of just be able to snap there. So you can kind of slide. And like you can see almost before I turn the corner, I have my centering on that window, so I can basically move in. So if I wanted to slide, or if I didn't want to slide, I can shoulder and then boom. I can shoulder if he's there, boom. And that was going to be my next tip, is shouldering and then working with centering and shouldering together. is you get the information and then you kind of do that. So it's not always going to be blind centering when you're playing the game. So we just talked about blind centering, kind of going in the kitchen or turning this corner and you want to be up there. If you think he's going to be to the right, you kind of slide to the right so you can have less of a snap. But there's also things like shouldering that can kind of help you kind of put together all the aim tips I just gave you with the centering I just gave you by shouldering there. If you thought there was a player in S&D either holding that top position or that head glitch, what you would want to do instead of just blindly sliding to the bomb, which the bomb is right here, by the way. What you wouldn't want to do is just blindly slide to the bomb with no, like, you know, purpose or anything and then be able to get shot. You want to get some info. So sometimes you can kind of throw a shoulder just like that, shoulder just like that. If he's not there, then you can throw another shoulder. If he's there, you can shoulder. Now you got the information of where he's at. You kind of see exactly where he was. The next time you kind of turn this corner, you can kind of center before. So then you can just kind of be right here where my red dot is basically on them and ready to shoot. So the better you get at that, and the more info that you get is going to help you a lot. So you can slide blind and center, or you can always just make sure you shoulder just like that. Just like that. You see him there, and then boom, you can challenge. So you always want to be working the positions that you're working by just like shouldering, peeking, and just getting that information. And then once you see that information, say you see he's on the pool stairs heady, you get the information, then you use the left stick aiming, the right stick aiming that I just showed you, and the centering that I just told you about to kind of all incorporate into getting that final kill and execute the getting that kill for yourself. So you'd be shoulder, you see him over there. I just reacted, I saw him over there, now I'm centering, and then you go up, left stick movement, so you move into this, left stick, and then you would use your right stick to control that recoil, and everything that I just showed you kind of goes into one to help you get easier kills in Call of Duty. If you can master those things right there, you will be so much better at the game, so much faster, and it'll be a lot more enjoyable for you to play Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Now, the next tip I'm going to go is slightly more advanced, but nothing too crazy, but it definitely will help you out. And that is going to be pre-firing while sliding and hip firing, and also just in general when you know someone is going to be turning a corner or you have that instinct. And what I mean by that, especially if you're playing hardpoint or objective-based game modes, this is a hard point on this map called Raid. If I was holding this hard point and I was looking in this like doorway, we call this gym. If I knew people were kind of coming off spawn and getting ready, if I saw someone throw a shoulder at me, for example, and now I know if they throw a shoulder at me and they see me standing here or laying down here, and if you're laying down again, left stick movement, the same exact thing. You want to make sure you're still moving. So you get that rotational aim assist. I'm doing this. And I see them shoulder to me. What that's going to look like from their screen is they're going to shoulder. They're going to get the info. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to center, come out, and pre-fire, right? And try to get that kill. So what you want to do in certain situations is also shoot before they turn that corner. Because in Call of Duty, if you do not know this, it is a peeker's advantage game. So if you turn this corner and center and shoot, you will actually get the first bullet off before they can even react. It is just how Call of Duty has always worked. It is a very tough thing to play against, and that's why the best of the best, if they see a shoulder or they have that instinct that people are going to either A, rechow them, or just kind of hit the doorway that they're looking at, you can definitely do a pre-fire. So if you saw someone throw a shoulder and you shoot, you're going to expect that rechow or expect that just re-peek or position, or maybe they're going to slide through, and that's where you would shoot and then start shooting before they actually kind of turn that corner to back up. And now if I was unsuccessful with that pre-fire and I get nothing, I would back up, I would reload, and then what I would do, I'd throw a shoulder here, a shoulder there, and then you'd have to start fighting again. So when it comes to everything that I just showed you, that one's very basic, but it is going to help a lot when you are actually in these like kind of really weird gunfights in these awkward angles where you're at these doorways and you don't know what to do. I would shoot. If you have to reload, you reload shoulder, you see him peeking, now you think he's going to slide, then you would have to pre-fire. A lot of pre-firing is going to help you, but the next thing is going to help you a little bit more. And that is going to be if you know someone is in corners or you're kind of predicting a spot or a head glitch or anything of the sort. You can slide, especially with SMGs, you can slide and hip fire to actually get those first couple bullets off. So what I mean by that, if you knew someone was kind of like in this corner, just like hanging out, waiting around, what you would want to do here, instead of just like turning the corner and then shooting them, you would have a peeker's advantage, but the faster you turn a corner and the faster you shoot your gun, or the bullets kind of, you know, travel out of your gun to start hitting the other player, the more of a peeker's advantage you're going to have. And what I mean by that is you want to turn the corner fast with your movement, and we're going to be doing a movement guide soon, so don't worry. And on top of it being fast, you don't want to do this and then shoot. What you would want to do is, if you're clearing corners, you'd want to shoot and hip fire and then go like that. And what I mean is you're going to be able to get some bullets off while hip firing before you actually get to aim down sight fully. So sometimes in Call of Duty with the close range engagements, you're going to be able to slide, hip fire, and then aim in. And those couple of hip fire bullets actually might connect in those close range fights to actually get that kill before you even aim in. And it's going to feel like you're melting people. So what I would do sometimes if you kind of know, like, oh, you got to call out, he's in there, he's not there. You can like slide, pre-fire, and like start trying to get in there as much as you can just to get as much bullets as you possibly can towards the other player. Because you'd be surprised how much hipfire in Call of Duty actually connects, even when sometimes you don't mean for it. So pre-firing in general, always expecting that reach out, and then hipfire, pre-firing when you're up close in those crazy engagements, especially when you're sliding in the hills and you know where people are. You're going to want to make sure that you're turning these corners and just trying to get these kills as fast as possible. So those tips are really, really important when it comes to how to aim like pros. If you master the first couple that I just gave you, you will be a 20 times better Call of Duty player if you just put in the practice and everything that you kind of need to. It's not an easy game. It's getting sweatier and sweatier by the year, but I'm here to help you as much as I can as this year goes on. Maybe I'll do more of an advanced guide, but I'm going to show you exactly how I practice it because I promised that. Then we're going to give you the best aim settings for controller players. Then I'm going to leave you guys to be on your way so you guys can get after it playing Call of Duty Black Ops 7. So the next thing I'm going to show you is very simple. It's basically just how I practice as a pro player, how a lot of pro players kind of just warm up for their matches before they actually get into team scrims or anything of the sort. Of course, playing the game against other players is always going to be the most helpful, but sometimes you can kind of play the game against other players and just get absolutely bodied. Then your confidence is ruined, and then you're just feeling really angry and frustrated, and then everything kind of just goes downhill. So what I would recommend to do to practice these kind of mechanics at a very basic level or just get warmed up is playing a bots free-for-all, and how to set it up in this game is actually a little bit more confusing. Hopefully they fix this, but I like to do bots free-for-alls, and the way to do that in this game is you actually have to put it on team deathmatch. Then you have to go over here. You have to add a bunch of bots. And for some reason, you can't add them in a free-for-all mode right now normally. So you go over here, you add as many as you want, put them on recruit regular. It doesn't really matter what they're actually put on because it's veteran bots or anything of the sort, regular bots. You're just trying to practice yourself right now, not shooting against other players. You hit confirm, and then what you would want to go back to do is go put it back onto a free-for-all so all the bots stay in there. Put it on the map of your choice. What I like to do is put as much time as I possibly can just so I don't feel rushed. I go over here. And then you can do max health if you're struggling with recoil control. You can actually turn it up if you think that would help you. It doesn't really matter too much for that. That's more of a preference thing. And then you want to have your radars always on, either at constant. A lot of the times this is bugged in Call of Duty and private match. Surprise. So if it's not working on constant, you would just want to do fast sweep. That should really be it for the setup. And then as simple as that, you would just go in, start the match. And then once this match starts, you can shoot as many bots as you want per day that you feel is helping you out. When I was a pro player myself for a long time, I was doing like 1,000 bots per day on top of a bunch of pubs and then a bunch of team scrims and a bunch of competitive stuff. But that's because I was playing the game, you know, for my career. But anything kind of works in your own schedule. Don't feel like the need to be that super intense when you're playing the game. But what it's going to look like when you're running around and just doing everything that I just showed you, you want to just be conscious of what I was doing. So if I was kind of going through this right now, if I were you guys and trying to learn, I'd be looking around. You can see on your mini map right now, all the bots are kind of around, so you have like the direction of where you're going. And then you just work on your centering. You see if there was someone on that head glitch right there. I was already centered there. There's someone here. Left stick movement, and just keep moving here. So boom. So yeah, you would basically just keep running around and just like looking for all these fights and stuff, working on your centering, working on your left stick and your tracking, trying to be a little less aggressive on the right stick, and just keep working on what you need to do when it comes to everything that you need to practice. Of course, you can work on your slide shots by jump sliding and aiming in. If you're really struggling while tracking while sliding, you can work on those. You can work on your jump shots. And in this game, of course, too, you can work on your wall bounces. So you can work on some of those wall bounces like that and tracking, just anything of the sort to kind of just get yourself in the motion of what you need to work on most. And a big thing, again, is just running around the map and just being centered, ready to go. So if I was walking through this middle of the map here, I would center on pool stairs, then I would center kitchen, and then I would center pillars. And you can see here, nothing's too crazy when I have to adjust. So if I was just running through this way again, I'm going to center the back door. And if I was going this way again, you just want to keep making sure you're working on your centering as much as possible so you don't have to do any crazy adjustments. And you can see how easy and very simple this is to kind of help yourself just get a little bit better at COD and just kind of get through the motions of what you need to do. And of course, you should probably run scavenger or anything of the sort, but that's the way I would recommend practicing this. Now let's move on to the fun part of the video, which is the settings, so you guys can get everything that you need to kind of get set up to go out there and dominate your competition in Black Ops 7. And here's the last and final thing we're going to be doing in this video. I'm going to kind of run through this pretty quickly. I'm going to explain the important stuff, and then there's also an entire controller settings video for both console and also PC if you want to go look at that in depth too for any of the graphics settings, controller settings, or anything of the sort that you need. But for this, we're going to be sticking to aiming stuff. Aiming input device, I'm on controller. I play on 1.6, 1.6. There are people talking about potentially lowering their sensitivity a little bit because the aim assist is a little bit weaker. So if you're someone that is new to Call of Duty and 1.6 feels a little bit fast, I'd recommend around a 1.45 or a 1.4. That is definitely pretty slow. But again, everything is going to be kind of to what you're trying to do, especially if you're more on the new side. If you're more of an advanced player, 1.6, 1.7 is kind of the sweet spot. Most professional players in the CDL, all the pro guys that are playing multiplayer every day, they're around 1.65 to 1.7 when it comes to sensitivities, because they are not really able to miss a single bullet without kind of getting punished for it. So they have to be really accurate. They don't play on super high sensitivities. For the most part, there are some outliers, of course, but the average player and most players are playing on around 1.65 to 1.7. So those are your stick sensitivities right there. I'd recommend trying those out and just kind of feeling out what feels best. If you want to go start really, really high and then kind of lower just to see exactly what works too, you could try something like that for a method too. Now, moving on, I don't have any of these on right there. I don't play with flip. I am using a PS5 Battle Beaver. I don't really like shooting with the bumpers. I might try that again. You never really know. But as of now, I'm shooting with my triggers. I don't like vibration on my controller ever. I feel like it messes with my aim. And then dead zone inputs is probably going to be the most important part of the settings video for this, and it's going to be very simple. When it comes to aiming, I was just explaining how important your left stick is because that gets the rotational aim assist. You want your left stick minimum as close to 0 as possible because you want that rotational aim assist activating for you as fast as possible. So you want to make sure your left stick is very responsive, and the way this is going to work is if I were to go all the way to the right here, you're going to see that you could get this big red ring around that. All that means is if I were to test this, it just means it takes that much push to actually get a response from your controller so you don't have stick drift. But the higher the dead zone that you actually have, the more input delay you're going to have. And again, the less responsive your controller is going to be, less aim assist, you're going to start losing some fights. So you want to get this as close to 0 as possible. And if your controller can handle it, you want it at 0. And then your left stick maximum is also going to be important for everything that I just showed you. And what it does is if you were to turn this all the way up, you see the ring kind of goes all the way to the edge and then kind of goes all the way back. What maximum means is when you get to the red ring right there. So if I were to click test, if you get to 65% of the way, you're actually hitting full speed instead of having to go all the way to that 99%, which is the edge of the stick. And that just means your strafes are going to hit full speed faster. You're going to hit your full momentum sprinting faster. Your slides, your slide cancels, and everything that you need will be hit faster if you have a lower max. Now, if you get too low with the max, sometimes your controller kind of tweaks out. So I feel like 65 is a relatively good spot to be at. And then your right stick minimum is also going to be important. You want this to be responsive, but not too responsive where that's almost moving for you and doing too much. So I like to play on anywhere from 3, 2, or 1. There are players that play on 0 and they do like to stick drift. I think that's a little crazy, but again, whatever really fits your personal preference is always going to matter most. So anywhere from 0 to 5 is a really good spot to be for your right stick minimum. Anything higher than that, you're kind of just starting to play with a little bit more of an input delay, and there's just no need for that, especially when you get to a higher level if you're trying to really kind of, take Call of Duty to a more serious level. So lower right stick minimum is very important for you. And then, of course, the right stick maximum, I would not recommend changing that at all. Your triggers are going to be important because these default, I think, at 10. You take these all the way down to 1 or 0 because you want to shoot and aim in as fast as possible. Because I said this earlier in the video, Call of Duty is a game of milliseconds. Now, moving over to the aiming spot, you're going to see sensitivity multiplier. Now, this is going to be all personal preference. The ADS sensitivity multiplier is basically when you're aimed down sight. If you were playing on 1.6, 1.65, if you were to aim down sight and you have it at 1, you're going to keep that same exact sensitivity when you're aimed down sight. If you want it to slow down a little bit when you're aimed down sights, and some people like to actually do that to feel like a little bit more locked on or locked in, you can lower it to like a 0.9 or a 0.85 and it really wouldn't hurt you. Again, I would test out 1, then I would test out 0.85, then I would test out 0.9 and just see exactly what works for you and what feels best. But again, there's players that do the multiplier. It's more of a Warzone thing for the longer ranges, but try it out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and then, kind of go from there. Aiming advanced settings, there are some important ones here, with this one being specific. You want this ADS sensitivity transition timing to be on instant and not gradual. If you have it on gradual, it's going to feel very clunky. And then your aim response curve type, you want this on dynamic right now. Now, this could change throughout the year. I'm curious to see exactly what happens with the aim assist nerf being a thing with the pro players and seeing exactly how they feel. But as of now, for the last 5-6 years, you basically want to use dynamic most of the time because dynamic gives you the ability to have those fast twitchy movements when you're aimed down sight or just moving around, and then it slows down. So it starts from fast to slow. So you can kind of snap on people and get those kills. And it's just a very Call of Duty-esque kind of thing with the aim assist and rotational aim assist being a thing. It's a very good kind of combination to have. And you have that all the way at 1. But for some reason, if you don't like dynamic, you could try standard, and basically standard is slow to fast. And then linear is more of like trying to keep exactly to the rate of your aiming rate. not too many people play on linear. People have tried it. I have tried it. I don't hate it, and you definitely could be successful with it. But again, everything kind of just is all personal at this point when you're kind of playing it. But I would definitely give my highest recommendation to dynamic to start off and just see how it feels for you. So I play on dynamic. I keep the response curve slope scale at 1. And that is really it for that. And then over here, everything else is going to be movement and all of that sort, which we will have a video scheduled for the next day if you're watching this for an ultimate movement guide. And then of course, as the year goes on, anything that comes up, I will be making sure I make guides in anything or any way to help you guys become the best Call of Duty players that you can be, so you can enjoy Call of Duty just a little bit more. So make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment below, let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Peace out.